In today's video, I'll show you how to clone one SSD or hard drive to another using Clonezilla. Clonezilla is a free open source tool that will make an exact copy of a disk, including the OS, files, and boot data. It will clone drives with both Windows and Linux installed to it. This tutorial will cover cloning a drive to another of the same size or larger. While cloning to a smaller drive is possible if the data fits, that process involves extra steps which I won't cover here. We'll start by creating a Clonezilla bootable USB. Download Clonezilla using the link provided in the description. Once on the download page, select the stable version. Choose AMD 64 for the CPU architecture and ISO as the file type. Then click the download button. You'll be redirected to a SourceForge page and your download will automatically begin. Save the ISO file anywhere on your computer. Next, we'll need to download Rufus, which we'll use to create our Clonezilla bootable USB. Once again, I'll leave the download link for Rufus in the description. Once on the download page, scroll down to the download section of the page and download the latest version of Rufus. Now that we have Clonezilla and Rufus downloaded, insert a USB flash drive into your computer to use for your bootable USB. This USB flash drive needs to have at least 1 GB of space. Remember to back up any important files from this USB, as this process will erase everything on it. Open Rufus and select your USB under the device section. Next, click the select button and choose the Clonezilla ISO you just downloaded. Leave the other settings as default and click Start. When prompted, choose to write the image in ISO mode and confirm any warnings about data loss. In just a few minutes, you'll have a Clonezilla bootable USB ready to use. Now that we have created our Clonezilla bootable USB, ensure both your source drive, the one that you want to clone, and the destination drive, the one that you want to copy to, are both connected to your computer. Your drives can be connected to your PC through NVMe, SATA, or USB depending on your available ports. I'm going to clone one NVMe SSD to another, so I have the source SSD, which is a 500GB Western Digital Black that has Windows 11 installed to it, in my first NVMe slot on my motherboard, and the destination SSD, which is a 1TB iDysonics i7000 in the second. With the drives in place, restart or turn on your computer, and before it boots to your OS, you're going to want to access the boot menu by pressing your computer's boot menu key. The key to enter the boot menu varies by motherboard and system manufacturers, but in my case, it's the F11 key. Use the arrow keys to select your Clonezilla bootable USB, then press the enter key to boot to it. When your computer first boots to the Clonezilla live USB, you'll be presented with a menu where you can choose to boot Clonezilla with different options. For most cases, booting to the first option of Clonezilla Live with a resolution of 800 by 600 is fine. Next, you'll be prompted to choose a language, and if you want to change the keyboard layout. Use the up and down arrow keys to navigate the menu within Clonezilla, then press enter to make a selection. Next, press the enter key on Start Clonezilla. You'll first be asked what operation you'd like to perform. Choose device to device, since we're copying one disk to another. For simplicity, select beginner mode. Then, when asked whether to clone an entire disk or just a partition, choose disk to local disk, as this allows us to copy the entire drive. You'll now need to select the source disk, the drive that you want to clone. In my case, this is the 500GB Western Digital NVMe SSD, as this is my current boot drive with Windows 11 installed to it. Once selected, you'll be prompted to choose the destination disk. the drive that you want to copy the contents to. For me, that's a 1TB iDysonics NVMe SSD. Clonezilla will then ask if you'd like to check the source disk for errors. I'm going to skip this step as it generally doesn't work with the NTFS file system that is used by Windows. Next, you'll be prompted to select a partition table mode. If you choose K0, Clonezilla will keep the original partition sizes exactly as they are. If you choose K1, Clonezilla will create a new partition table on the destination drive and scale the partitions proportionally to fit. Since our destination drive is larger, I recommend choosing K1 to ensure the Windows partition expands to use the full capacity of the drive. If you choose K0, the extra space will remain unallocated, and extending the partition later can be difficult if there's a recovery partition in the way. Clonezilla will then ask if you want to save a log file to your USB. This is optional, but I like to save one just in case. You'll also have the option to choose what happens when the cloning process is finished. You can choose to shut down or restart the system after cloning, but I prefer to select the choose option so that I can choose to manually shut down or restart my system when cloning is complete, and I'll be able to verify if cloning was successful. After confirming your choices, Clonezilla will ask twice if you're sure you want to proceed, with a warning stating that all data on the destination drive will be erased. So make sure that you have all data on your destination disk backed up before continuing. Type Y and press enter each time to continue. The cloning process will then begin and may take some time depending on the size of your source disk and the speed of your drives. Once Clonezilla is done cloning, you'll be prompted to press enter to continue. Now we can choose what we want our computer to do now that we're done cloning. I'm going to choose to shut down in this example. This is because I want to move my newly cloned drive and larger disk to the first NVMe slot on my motherboard, and remove my original Western Digital drive from my system. You can keep the source drive connected, but Windows will automatically mark it as offline and make it inaccessible because both drives are identical, and Windows doesn't allow two identical drives to be active simultaneously. Now that the drives have been swapped, it's a good idea to enter your computer's BIOS to ensure that the new drive is recognized and that it's set as the first boot option. You can see here that my iDysonics SSD is recognized in my first NVMe slot. I've also installed my data SSD, this 2TB Sabrent Rocket, into my second SSD socket. I've also confirmed that my iDysonics SSD is first in the boot priority. These steps for adjusting boot priority can vary by motherboard, but the goal is to confirm that your clone drive is the one the system will boot from. Save your BIOS settings and exit to restart the computer. If everything worked correctly, your system should boot as usual, and your files and programs will be exactly as they were on the original drive. If I open File Explorer, you can see that my C drive now has roughly a terabyte of space. We can double check that the new drive is fully utilized by opening Disk Management. If you've used the K1 option when cloning your drive in Clonezilla, your primary partition should expand to fill most of the new disk's space. You may notice about 1 GB of unallocated space at the end of the drive. This is normal and is reserved for partition alignment. Partition alignment just ensures that the partitions start and end on the drive's physical sector boundaries, which improves performance and reduces wear on modern drives. At this point, your new drive is an exact copy of the original, fully functional, and is ready to use. And that brings us to the end of the tutorial. If this video helped, please leave a like. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.